Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Equestria Daily fandom podcast. The goal of this podcast is to grab a bunch of staff from the Equestria Daily website and basically talk about what has been happening in the fandom or in the show My Little Pony Friendship is Magic at the time. I'll be our moderator, A Bag of Vicodin, and I am here with Sethisto,
How's it going?
Pegasus Rescue Brigade,
Hi, everybody. Nice to talk to you again.
Fee,
Hello.
Cups,
Hey there.
and then finally the Illustrious Q.
Oh, thank you for saving the best for last.
Oh, yes, of course. Why would I not? So, the first subject we wanted to talk about is, since this is a Sunday when we're recording, we're just going to have a few 5-10 minutes to talk about the episode. The episode this week was What About Discord? What are you guys' first opinions on the episode? We'll start with Cups.
Okay. So, it wasn't one of my favorite episodes. It's probably not one I'm going to rewatch very often. Only had a few moments that I really laughed at. Not my favorite.
Fee, what do you think?
To be perfectly honest, I haven't seen it yet. I tend not to catch the episodes live because I have things that I need to be doing during the weekend. It's really bad pony viewing time for me. So I tend to get them on Mondays. I'm a bad hot take pony, I'm sorry.
How about yourself, PRB?
I thought it was all right. It's didn't really to me stand out among some of the gems of season 5. Discord was, Discord's always fairly entertaining. I think it depends what writer gets a hold of him. I don't think that this episode could hold a candle to Make New Friends But Keep Discord earlier this season, but it was still relatively entertaining, even if not gonna shine at the top of the season.
Yeah, how about yourself, Seth?
No, I think this episode just made the ponies look stupid, in a way. A lot of them were illogical, and they just kind of didn't understand social situations in a way that even they, like, the show is very much about exploring different aspects of a friendship, but this one was just so... Even kids will know that talking like that around your friend is just going to drive them nuts. And that bugged me. That bugged me a lot more than the other aspects of the episode. Like Discord, I think he was a little bit more low-key this time. He did pull off some pretty cool references, but I mean, overall, I just really didn't like the way the ponies were portrayed. I think that's my big issue with the episode. That's about it, though. It was okay otherwise.
Well, the previous writer who wrote this one was, what are the last episode that he wrote?
Princess
Was
Spike.
it Spike?
Princess Spike.
Yeah,
Princess Spike, yeah.
Princess
Princess
Spike,
Spike.
and we've already seen a significant amount of outrage towards that episode. So perhaps he's he's bowling 0 for 2. He could be one of the weaker writers, perhaps.
I would
don't like
suggest that
blaming
he's
it on the
probably
writer.
finding his... Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Fee, you could probably answer that better. Just go for it.
The longer the series goes on, the more defined the characters tend to become, the more difficult it becomes to bring in new writers and have them immediately become a hit. There's some exceptions to this. I feel like Jan Barrow did a really excellent job with her debut episode, but that's because she was already writing the ponies in book form ahead of time.
Yep.
It's a very significant challenge to just jump into this and like start handling a bunch of characters you've never touched, but everybody has very big opinions on, and they're all a little weird to say this about ponies, but they're all sacred cows. And I mean, like you just kind of have to expect it's going to be a learning curve. If a weaker episode comes from a newer writer, I'm for many installments therefore willing to just kind of extend them a little bit of extra slack, because hey, it's hard. It's really hard to pick up somebody else's characters you haven't necessarily been paying close attention to and make them sing.
What do you think, Q? We never got your opinion on the episode.
Well, the episode really wasn't a Discord episode per se. It was more like this is an episode starring Twilight Sparkle and Spike, with Twilight going insane, guest starring Discord. With that in mind, I thought the episode worked and also fell flat on its face. It worked in that the one thing that it was trying to do was illustrate what it's like being the person who's left out of a weekend with a whole bunch of friends because you were doing something else at the time, or yeah, it's pretty much just because you were doing something else at the time. And then when you finding out a few days later that everything that happened is something that was fun, amazing, fantastic, and you have no idea what happened. So in that sense there, it worked great with Twilight. That also worked great with the audience, since, again, we were also excluded from the weekend that the Rainbow Dash Rarity, Applejack, and Discord, and everyone else had. At the same time, the episode also felt flat because, well, let's face it, all the ponies here were portrayed as jerks.
Jerks are just really, really out of the box when it comes to knowing how to react to other people's issues, in a way. I think that's what kind of I ran into there. And
Yeah.
I think there's types of episodes this show tends to follow, and this was more of a slice and life friendship problem solving type thing, as opposed to any kind of adventure or even a comedy episode. I wouldn't call this a comedy episode, even though it was a Discord episode. I think the Moon Dancer episode is an example of a really well done friendship problem episode, where they do tackle a very simple issue that a lot of people actually do deal with on a day-to-day basis, but they don't portray the ponies as dumb, and that's just what bothered me in a way.
All right, I think that's enough discussion about the episode. I think that we pretty much touched it all that we need to, and we can always bring it up in future podcasts. But for this episode, we wanted to talk about Cutie Marks in particular, both how they were conveyed in the previous few seasons of the show, as well as now. Because with Crusaders of the Lost Mark, I would argue that it pretty much cemented Cutie Marks as to what they are going to be from now on. Because we have had previous episodes where, like in the premiere, where a cutie mark could be changed to make you completely terrible at everything, or average at least. But in Crusaders of the Lost Mark, you had someone who already had a cutie mark but had no idea what they were going to do with it. So this is my first question towards the staff. It would be, is this a better Troubleshoes episode? Insofar as Troubleshoes didn't know what his cutie mark was, and so did Diamond Tiara, and they both kind of figured out what their cutie mark was, and with Diamond Tiara's case, she was redeemed, and she found out what it was she was actually good at.
Rather than being a better Troubleshoes episode, this was just the last piece of the Cutie Mark Crusaders arc for this season. The Trenderhoof's and Apple Bloom's dreams about Cutie Marks came to fruition with them realizing, rather than spending all this time hunting for our Cutie Marks in ways that don't seem to be working, maybe we should just help people, or help ponies, because it's it's fun and rewarding, rather than fun and then covered in tree sap.
That's true. I think the concept of cutie marks is a little bit terrifying in a way, because if you do get stuck with something you don't really like, which seemed to be the case in Diamond Tiara's case until she figured out what she liked to do, which I still don't really understand if she does know what she wants to do. I think you'd kind of be screwed for life at that point, wouldn't you? You don't want to be a candy salesman, and you're going to be a candy salesman for the rest of your life because your butt has candy on it.
Well, it depends on how you want to interpret these sorts of things. There's been a lot, and this season has basically been about, like, cutie marks. What do they do? What do they mean? Can I has them? Etc. and so forth. But, like, busting out the old memes here. It's nothing but class on the Equestria Daily podcast.
Yep.
Yep.
The point I'm driving toward is that there is a lot of literature in the show spent on describing cutie marks as what you are uniquely talented at, but not specifically the thing that you are doing for the rest of your life. Like, so this is what it is. This is what I think it means. What do I do? Like, they've always been a metaphor for growing up. And step one to becoming an adult is figuring out what it is that you enjoy doing, figuring out what you're good at doing, and then figuring what you can do with both of those things. And getting the cutie mark is like that seminal moment where it clicks and you realize what it is you have a talent for. And from there on, you wind up with struggles to apply it. You can wind up like Trouble Shoes and go your entire life thinking that your cutie mark is an awful, terrible curse and just straight up misinterpreting it, or you can be. Because I don't think that Diamond Tiara didn't know what it meant. She's good at telling people what to do, and they do things. So
Is that
she
what
just
the
kind of ran with that, and it wound up turning her into a terrible person.
so is
And
that
she was
what the
kind of
final
shown an alternative lifestyle that she could use that talent and apply it to things. So I don't really feel like if you get the wrong butt tattoo, you're posed so much as you need to figure out what it is you're doing with it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because clearly Rarity is still a minor. After all, her special talent is finding gems. Ay, 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 ay.
They've kind of, I don't know, that one I feel like got flattened over the course of writers handing off things to other writers.
So maybe they're just super vague, and you can kind of just decide what you want to do based around it in a way.
Yeah,
Like if you get tired
Pretty
of
much,
making
yes.
candy one day, you can do something else with candy. You can
well, because the main question that I see throughout the fandom is that with the Cutie Mark Crusaders marks, since they're all relatively the same with minus a few changes, people are worrying essentially that the marks are like locking the Cutie Marks in place as a team forever. Like that they're because like seasons 3 and 4, the Cutie Mark had a correlation to the character's destiny, with Twilight Sparkle's Cutie Mark shaping her destiny into be like an alicorn and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess I'm just a little confused because like Cutie Marks, I feel have changed in what they were supposed to do from seasons 1 to 2 to now. 1 to 2 they were your special talent, and then 3 to 4 they became your destiny, and now we're kind of into like the dark fic territory where they could be literally anything. Like the terrible parts of having a bad cutie mark or a cutie mark that you were completely unaware of or you don't know how to do with it. Like these are the problems that they're actually addressing and touching upon, and they're also stuff that like no one has really thought of.
I'm not sure that I agree that they have changed in meaning. Their use has changed in scope. This is certainly the first time in the show that a season has focused on cutie marks quite so distinctly. It's very obviously the overarching theme of this season, in the same way that like Super Friendship, Rainbow Sparkle Magic was the theme of the previous season.
Hmm.
I believe the technical term is Rainbow Power, which
Yeah.
doesn't sound any less fruity when you say it. So if you want to talk about like how cutie marks equal destiny is the statement of season 3/4, I think you wind up really only thinking that because cutie marks in those seasons are laser focused on very hyper specific ponies, like
Rainbow Dash,
mostly Twilight
Fluttershy,
Sparkle.
Twilight.
It's the main six, but mostly Twilight Sparkle. And like you are dealing with destiny there. Those are ponies of destiny. So naturally that's the sort of thing that's going to come up a bunch. And we got that wonderful song about it that everybody loves so much.
So
But I don't know. I'm kind of losing track of what I'm trying to say here.
Well, I guess the main question is that what, like now, like specifically right now, the show is not over yet, obviously, and neither is the season. Like, what is a cutie mark? Like, if you sat down with one of the writers and you said, "What is a cutie mark? What does it represent beside your special talent?" What do you think they would say?
think it would just be sort of a guideline to what a pony could possibly be good at.
It's
I
a
mean,
map.
yeah, it's a map. That's what it is. The cutie map is a perfect allegory for it. I think in some ponies it's super super vague, so it just gives them an idea that they could basically do anything. Like Rainbow Dash Case, what is a lightning bolt rainbow? It's what you can do anything with that, or even Twilight. It's a star with sparkles around it. And then
But
there's some other ponies that are super focused that have one specific talent. Like the guy at Quills and Sofa has got a Quill and Sofa cutie mark, or his life is Quills and Sofa. It's very difficult to see what different destinies these ponies would have just based on what's on their butt, in a way.
so basically, the cutie mark is kind of a general idea of their life. Because I mean, with Twilight Sparkle, you kind of had the whole, Faust kind of made Twilight Sparkle's cutie mark to where it was like, all of the symbols where I think there was like 6 symbols on top of her own, which meant like the main 6, or it was like 5 extra or something like that. Um, and it just meant like she was meant to meet all these people, like it was her destiny to meet all these people and become friends with them. Whereas all of the other ones don't really have that kind of flair to it. Like, do you think a cutie mark is just kind of a generality thing? Because you can have like a background pony who just has like a marshmallow cutie mark and like they sell marshmallows. But you have Twilight Sparkle who her cutie mark is a bunch of stars and it's magic, but at the same time she has the destiny. It's within her destiny to be this amazing princess and magic user and stuff like that.
Right.
Because
I
like
think
it,
over time, just going through life as a pony, you'd figure out more and more of what your cutie mark could possibly mean. And in some cases, they probably just sort of assume, like, they just assume that, hey, those 6 marks, maybe they represent my friends in a way for Twilight. Or they could mean something entirely different. It just depends on what she runs into, in a way.
Dodging the whole philosophical discussion on whether or not destiny is even a thing, or even going into like the fanfic realm of like, is there an overarching force of harmony with a capital H that is like shaping the destinies of all these ponies, that put the cutie marks of the main 6, or put the cutie marks on the tree of harmony, whatever. But it seems like no matter what you look at, at least since season 3, they've been making it more and more apparent that the cutie marks are somehow connected to a destiny, even if it's a loose definition of destiny. Like, the main 6 got their cutie marks all at the same time, and that's been really important for all of them, not just in like discovering their talent, but no matter what, they were destined to be friends. They were destined to come together and save the world, at least save Equestria, whatever. And then now you have another iteration of that for the first time we've seen in the show, with the Cutie Mark Crusaders getting their cutie mark all at the exact same time. And now it's even more like blatantly marking them as best friends forever, just all but mandatory. And yet you're never going to see, well, outside of fan fiction, you're never going to see one of them be like, Scootaloo's like, you know what, Destiny can't tell me what to do, I don't have any friends, and just walks away. Not seeing that. So it seems like they're making it a point. I'm with you, Viking, and they've been forming a point for a while that your cutie mark, while it might not point an arrow to exactly what you're going to do for the rest of your life, it is definitely guiding you on your way to somewhere.
yeah, like it has a correlation, I feel, to both your destiny, your special talent, as well as what you're going to be doing in the future. Because, like, we can bring up the same question about names. How did Twilight Sparkle get her name before she got her cutie mark? And the same goes for everyone else on the cast, everyone else in the whole show.
Yeah.
There's a giant supercomputer buried underneath Canterlot Castle that everybody brings newborn ponies to that determines the most apt name to hand them, and then they kind of spit them out into the world and wait for them to find out what that means.
Yeah, it's like the Harry Potter sorting hat.
No.
Oh,
It's,
God.
no. It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe Earth, where instead of us not being able to know what the ultimate answer is to not being able to know what the ultimate question is, the ultimate answer to the life about the life of the universe and everything, it's like, oh, what is this pony's name? This pony is Twilight Sparkle. There you go. Next.
To quote Brownie Bun, wars have been fought over this.
Yeah. Well, you could find a war over everything. I mean,
Was
Pink,
that a horsewife? I know horsewife
Yes,
does
yeah.
that
Yeah.
sometimes.
good old horsewife, such a beautiful Tumblr.
It is. It's the only one I follow these days, unfortunately.
Okay,
All my
so it seems like we've pretty much narrowed down Pabst or Q. Did you have any other additional thoughts that you wanted to add about what you think the Cutie Mark is, like what the Cutie Mark canon is?
Um, I don't know. I mean, nowadays, like you were saying, they're open to a lot more interpretation, but I'm not sure that that means that it could be a range of different things so much as just when they do whatever the necessary thing is to gain their mark that is, I guess, predetermined, they will gain it. And even if they know that talent, they might not necessarily know the rest of the context that they need to use it properly. So it's almost as if, I don't know, the system with which ponies gain cutie marks might be flawed in a way.
Well, I wouldn't say. Do you think it's more arbitrary than flawed? Like, I guess another good question to bring up would be, do they have to do that exact same thing that they have done in all of their episodes in order to get that Cutie Mark?
No.
You want to
No,
add on that?
No, in order for them to get that exact in order for them to get that exact cutie mark, ultimately Princess Luna was the one who ended up putting it best in her little dream episode with Apple Bloom. It's like when it's the cutie mark is ultimately going to be a part of you. It is a part of yourself that you haven't ultimately discovered yet. What that something is, it's up to you to figure out.
But what if you find a different part of yourself? Do you get a different Cutie Mark? Do you get the same Cutie Mark, but do you have a different personality? Like, the other thing I wanted to bring up is that there's the argument that Cutie Marks don't really mean much because they're completely open to
Well, the thing,
interpretation, because the adventure that all of these characters have behind the Cutie Mark is really what shapes their personality.
well, the thing is, the thing is, you keep bringing up the point of personality with regards to cutie marks. They're not really all that interconnected. They're connected when you really boil down to it. Because, like, the character has the personality long before they get the tattoo on their butt.
Yeah, that's true, because they're fillies the entire time, and they have all their filly adventures.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we thinking they are born with it and they discover it, or is it just something that they are destined to get eventually, or because there's so many ways that they could end up with a cutie mark.
Well, I
Maybe it's
feel
just
like that's a
different for
little
all
bit
the ponies.
heavy. I mean, like, for a thing to be just sussing out. Like, well, obviously, destiny is a very real and heavy thing that is pushing ponies across a chessboard. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I think the big issue is it's a cartoon and it's very difficult to keep it all together without breaking things up a bit.
yeah, I think that's the thing, is like we're never going to get actual questions regarding whether Destiny is pushing ponies across the checkboard. I think we're just kind of spitballing the most that we can out of the canon that we have without going into hardcore headcanon territory and saying, "Oh, see, Donut Steal, this headcanon is correct."
Well, here's a thought. The Cutie Mark Crusaders for seasons were constantly being like, "Hey guys, let's go get a bowling Cutie Mark. Hey, let's all go get a Cutie Mark in selling door-to-door cookies." Like, since they were like a parody of getting your Cutie Mark, maybe we can infer that you don't go out and get a Cutie Mark in doing something. The Cutie Mark comes to you, like every percent of the time. Maybe that's telling.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that does really make
Well, I mean,
sense.
the Cutie Mark Crusaders in particular are a giant metaphor for
Growing
the
up.
target audience.
Hmm.
Like, everything that they struggle with, everything that they do, maybe little girls are not quite as obsessed with discovering their special talent because that's a more pony thing, but
Or quite as destructive.
it depends on who you know.
Uh, that's some pretty destructive little girls.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
and the point is that, like, everything they go through, everything they do, and everything that they are is a window into what it's like to be a girl growing up. all of their concerns, all of their fears, their aspirations, the sorts of things that they're reaching for are meant to be things that girls watching the show can identify with and kind of learn from. And in that sense, Cutie Mark is pretty basically just realization. It's clarity.
That is a good way to put it, considering you can't really mark a cutie mark as adulthood because they have kind of the personalities slowly maturing over time.
It's a stepping stone, like your
Yeah,
personality is what leads you to approach things the way that you do, and the way that you approach them is what leads you to the realization, like it leads you to lessons in life, and those lessons in life shape you and they push you further forward and so on and so forth, and you come out the other end hopefully a better, wiser pony.
Hmm. I feel
yeah.
like the only real
Yay.
argument against that, and I don't even agree with it, so being devil's advocate than shooting myself down, is Starlight Glimmer's equalization spell seemed to be like it changed their personalities. Like, we had little flashes on their butts, and Pinky would go like, "Actually, I'm quite boring now."
That's
Um,
brainwashing, not personality shifting.
exactly. We can probably assume that
A
was
side effect of the
the spell.
spell, absolutely.
And I think that's
You think it
also
was?
was intentional. Like
Yeah.
that was intentionally conveyed as brainwashing because there was also propaganda. There was also like,
Hmm.
there was like treatment that.
There was, but it was immediate
Everything.
in a lot of cases.
Well, the point set is that if
Well, you can
cutie
immediately
mark, like
brainwash someone.
if your cutie mark is so inherently mystically tied to your identity as a pony, then none of that is necessary.
Right.
There are no posters, there's no marching, there's no catchy songs, there's no happy fun camp where we relearn how to be the joys of equality, etc. and so forth, because you would just yoink the kitty mark away and then they would go blank.
Hmm.
That's true.
And you wouldn't need all the cult leader shaming constantly to keep everyone in line, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
But it certainly does help because then you don't have. Because I mean, the main
Then
six had their cutie marks yanked away, and they were the ones that like.
Well, it's literal Orwellianism, isn't it? Like you're yanking away points of reference so that you can no longer form thoughts of rebellion.
maybe they just become so dependent on their cutie marks over time that they're more vulnerable to that later. Like, if Starlight Glimmer jacked the cutie mark Crusader cutie marks, would it do the same thing, or
Yeah, I guess
would
like
they
that's my
suddenly become
question.
nothing?
Is it
Yeah,
is it
maybe it's
because
just
like
dependency.
have the main six basically, since they had their cutie marks for basically forever, they weren't exactly like the previous town citizens, so that's why they immediately went for rebellion. It's possible that Starlight could have had to
Well,
need to handle all of the other ponies' oblivion rebellions, and then she just kind of learned how to be good at it. But then you can't say that because she was garbage at handling the main six's rebellion.
well, the thing that you're overlooking here is that all the ponies in our town were basically around the same age as the main six characters there.
Hmm.
They've all, it can be reasonably assumed, and I'm well aware of what assuming can do, but it can be reasonably assumed that all these ponies had their cutie marks here for about the same amount of time as the main six did, if not possibly longer or just slightly shorter, depending on their ages.
There
The
was an aspect of our town though where they were all outcast ponies, weren't they? Wasn't that the idea?
Exactly.
Was they were outcast in their society,
Well, they
Exactly.
were
What
taken advantage
so they were
of.
more susceptible to it, weren't they?
it's
Yes.
it's pretty much just like the recruitment that a certain terrorist organization likes to do when they're targeting certain individuals. Because they always try to go after the people who are vulnerable, people who have social issues, family issues, feeling like they're alone, they're depressed.
They think that they're
Basically,
losers, basically.
exactly. Target these people when they're at their absolute lowest. And then you can just start bringing them over to a new line of thinking. Thinking as a means to get them feeling better about themselves, as a means to try and rebuild their lives, sort of. After all, why wouldn't? After all, if it feels like you have nothing to lose, what's the harm in trying?
That makes sense. All right, so do we have any additional thoughts that we wanted to add considering what we think cutie marks is? So I think then we could pretty much summarize that cutie marks are pretty much open to interpretation, but at the same time they're like Feast said, a stepping stone in your own character's maturity. And it kind of represents that because with Starlight taking away the Cutie Marks, it was more brainwashing and not necessarily the Cutie Mark has all of your personality within it.
What are the Cutie Mark Crusaders going to do to earn a living?
They will,
Oh, they're gonna open up a
They're going to
little
become psychiatrists.
yeah,
right, little
5
firm where they
bits,
tell you where to
please.
get a job.
yeah, they're
And
gonna,
don't forget, all of them have secondary talents that just are not what the picture on their butt is. But like Sweetie Belle can sing very well, even if that's not her quote unquote special talent.
Scootaloo is a daredevil, and Apple Bloom is a mechanical engineer.
yeah, I mean, their Cutie Marks don't necessarily say what they're gonna do for a living because neither does any of the Cutie Marks for any of the other main six, or, you know, the Cutie Marks saying what they do for a living usually applies to the background ponies because the background ponies don't have any personality. Like Berry Punch is Berry Punch because she drinks a lot, so she may own like a wine store. Like same thing goes for Bon Bon.
Was
Well,
that canon?
Well, actually, in the case of Bon Bon, it's like, no, what she does
Yeah.
for a living
Bon
isn't
is
anywhere
the early example of a
close.
pony that doesn't do what her Cutie Marks says.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Polar
I mean,
Unless
she is
they're
canon.
She's a secret agent.
Slice of Life is canon, so yeah, she is a
Yeah.
secret agent.
She's got
And-
some cyanide candies on her butt. That's what it is. And you can't stop Bon Bon. Trap her, she'll do cyanide.
The acquisition of the Cutie Mark seems to be the Cutie Mark acquisition program. It seems to be what actually indicates how they're going to exercise that Cutie Mark throughout the rest of their life, not including the edge cases like Diamond Tiara, like Trouble Shoes. So Rarity Rarity didn't actually get her Cutie Mark when she found the gem. She got her Cutie Mark when she put on the stage show and it was beautiful. Twilight uses magic, blah 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 blah. So it's interesting to think of like what will the Cutie Mark Crusaders do with their talents since season 6? Well, they're still kids. They're still going to live with their parents slash sister, and slash orphanage, and they're going to move on with their lives. But in the future, 5 years from now, they're not going to open a psychiatry office. They're not going to open a peanuts like 5 cents tips booth. Like it is interesting to think what are they going to actually do for the interminable years a pony lives for if frickin' Granny Smith is any indication.
They'll be daring, roguish adventurers traveling the world and setting to right things that went wrong.
So daring do.
Yeah,
Sure.
they're going to be Daring Do's disciples. Alright, I think that's all that we have to say about Cutie Mark, so I'm actually going to go into questions. I think this question would be good for Seth. Seth, Skyloft asks, do you think My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has improved over the years?
I definitely think it's improved over the years. Season 1 was actually really amazing, though. There's no doubt that it set the stage, but this last season has absolutely blown me away. In just the scope and the storylines are so much more complex than they used to be. I think season 3 was slightly weak, but it's gotten a lot better as the time goes on through these last two. So yeah, definitely.
Anyone have anything to add, Fee?
That's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? Has it gotten better?
Yeah, that was kind of the thing, was that when I saw it, I was like, better is subjective, right?
Well, certainly, but I mean, I feel like it depends on what you value. Something that, and okay, so I want to couch this statement first and foremost by saying that what I'm talking about is not a reflection of anybody who has worked on the show and left or has continued to work on the show, because there's a bunch of different outside factors that have contributed to this, like the opening of the Hasbro umbrella and the kind of extra leeway that people are given and etc. and so forth. But I feel like the show has gotten more room to run around in. And I think that as a result of that, more recent seasons, specifically 4 and 5, have gotten the chance to play with season-long concepts. The show in its early days was very much like you can play with an idea for an episode or two and then you have to move on to something else. And I think for me, as one of those like nerds that likes to look at overarching themes and kind of put far too much effort into poking at them, that the more recent seasons of Pony has borne more fruit for me.
Yeah, I think that they're given. I
But
mean, season
as a
one.
raw viewer experience, though, I honestly feel like season 2 was the peak.
Well, the thing is, like, seasons. The only season that really I don't think had an overarching narrative was two, because season one had the gala. Season three had Twilight's
It's a
alicornization.
stretch to call the gala an overarching theme.
Well, yeah. I mean, it
It got
depends on.
mentioned in 3 episodes. That's not.
I
That's
wouldn't call it a
understandable.
theme.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's understandable. Because I mean, I was also going to bring up the fact that the gala is not exactly something that changes their lives as much as the alicornization or season four's Rainbow Power or season five, them just playing with the Cutie Marks in general and their like Canterlot boutique and stuff like that. So I definitely agree that they're giving more room to run around in, and I think that that's. I mean, we saw the Lauren Faust panel at EQLA, and that was kind of what drove her away from what I saw, what she was talking about. Like, Hasbro was basically not caring that much. And then, like, they were giving her and the writers a, like, closet to talk about seasons one and two in and, like, stuff like that. But now they seem to have opened up to just letting the writers do their thing.
I feel like the commercial success of the show bought the kind of leverage that Faust wanted for it, but too late for
Yeah,
her.
like she wanted the
Which is
leverage
very sad.
immediately, and she wanted the creative control immediately, and it was kind of like you said, it was too late because she had creative control, but then a bunch of things got changed both before the show even aired and then during the show, like Princess Celestia's name was changed and like stuff like that. What do you?
Executive meddling is a many-headed hydra. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that it is a fair statement to say that the executive meddling has both done good for the show and hurt the show. What do you think, Cups? Both the previous question and what I just said.
Well, I think without executive meddling, I think M.A. Larson himself said that he never would have wrote Slice of Life.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
good point.
So, I mean, you take the good with the bad, you get the show we all love, yeah. And the show, it's interesting. I've asked people before how they feel, if they agree. Was season one cuter than any of the other seasons? The characters were more innocent. They were more sort of like almost like tweens, just without the. They were pony tweens, which are obviously incredibly better than human tweens. Sorry, all tweens. But they just acted in a more lighthearted manner overall, and it's in big part to what Fee said is there was less being explored. Like it was literally like we're gonna have a sleepover. We bickered, we resolved it, and now an episode like that might have Starlight Glimmer hanging out in the background with binoculars, or someone might get their cutie mark or figure out their destiny. At the same time, you're having things. So anyway, the show has definitely changed, not necessarily dramatically, and I'm in the same boat with Fee of like there's more to latch your teeth onto these days, and I'm a huge fan of the music, and while I miss having Pinky sing like a little ditty in like 4 out of every 5 episodes, overall the music is improved. So I'm liking it more and more each season.
What do you think, PRB?
Yeah, I think it's improved, but with the little caveat to that it's because of all of these more complicated themes and bigger overarching storylines. I want to say it's improved for our audience, but it's a lot harder to judge if it's improved for the target audience. Do the people who are intended to watch this show, mostly the younger girls, do they like this like high fantasy route that we've taken in a lot of the episodes, or do they want to just are they more interested in the sort of thing that season one had to offer? I guess it really depends on the age. If they're the really young, 5 or 6 year olds, it might be lost on them. But ones that are 10 or 12, I'm sure probably appreciate these more complicated stories.
All right.
I have more money to spend than they do, so I don't care.
Okay, I have a question for Q actually. Uh, Someone's asking, suppose IDW's contract expires and the MLP comics go to Marvel. How do you think they will pull it off? Will we be seeing crossovers with the Marvel universe like in Transformers?
MLP zombies, go.
If IDW were to lose the license and it were to go to Marvel, let's see.
I'll do like a 2 minute, just like what do you think the generalities are?
Well, the thing is, the main thing with doing a licensed comic here is that everything that you can do within the that you can do with that property here is more or less spelled out in the license, is spelled out within the licensing. What has to go to approval for the IP holder and all that other the approval, what needs to be approved by the IP holder, how the characters are supposed to look, what types of stories are allowed, what type of stories aren't. All of that is controlled at a whim by the IP holder. Would ponies be able to do crossovers with Marvel, with the Marvel Universe, with any of their characters there, or would they be able to do crossover with Star Wars, that whole branch there, or could they possibly crossover with any property that Disney owns that Marvel hasn't been creating comics for?
That'd be beautiful.
The ultimate answer is I don't know. I really don't know.
I think we'll just go with that. Seth, what do you think Cadence's full is going to be? An Alicorn, a Unicorn, Pegasus, or Earth Pony? I think that our answer is pretty much Skyla, right?
Is it Skyla? I don't think it was
I
ever
hope
confirmed to
not.
be Skyla.
I don't think it's confirmed to be Skyla, but would you guys put your money on the fact that Princess Cadence? I mean, the toy's there already.
It could be Skyla. I don't know if it 100% will be, and I don't know if she will be an Alicorn. She would be an Alicorn to sell toys, yes. But
I'm
I mean,
rooting for
even
Earth
then,
Pony
that little
personally.
girl's like sold on Alicorns, so I don't know.
I
That'd be
want an
a
Alicorn Prince.
they could possibly do that. Did they say it was a girl or a boy? I
No,
don't remember.
I don't think they said anything. But
I mean,
didn't
if they really wanted to mix it up, Alicorn Prince would be interesting, no doubt. That'd be
Nobody wants to hear me lay out the 2-minute explanation of why this isn't going to be Skyla, in my extremely biased opinion. So if you have another question,
yeah.
Skyla came out 2 years ago.
I'll ask Pegasus Rescue Brigade this. If and when we get G5 ponies, would you like its storyline to feature characters from Friendship is Magic? I.e. the CMC, Panda Pumpkin Cake, Cadence, and Shining Armor's Baby? Or would you prefer a complete recast? This is assuming that G5 actually is confirmed.
G5. Well, first of all, that would depend on whether or not G5 is any good. You know, I mean, even though we all like this generation and have given some of the other ones a chance, a lot of people have gone back to look at, G1 that had a lot of interesting things in it, but not every generation of My Little Pony is the cup of tea of most bronies. I know I would not watch anything from Gen 3 or probably 2. So it depends. I mean, I'm assuming with the success of G4, they're going to use elements of this as part of the formula for G5. But assuming that that's well done, then yeah, I could see them including a lot of the same characters, but they would probably be changed since the other generations of MLP have not really been considered to be part of the same universe as G4. You know, they're sort of rebooting and starting the story from scratch. So Rainbow Dash, for instance, went from G3 to G4 being, prissy and fashion-loving to a fast-flying tomboy. So even if characters do make it into G5, I don't think there's any guarantee that they're really going to be the characters that we know in this gen.
Which in turn has always been the case with Hasbro's properties when they're going from various incarnations with the toy line. Generation 1 Optimus Prime is not the same as Generation 2 Optimus Prime, or 3, or 4, or Beast Wars, or Prime, or animated, or you kind of get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So
always a different take on the same. It's always a different take on the intellectual property and trying to introduce it to a new generation of kids who will hang on their parents, will start pulling on their parents' hand and start saying, "Mommy, mommy, I want that."
so I think it's unlikely that we'll see the characters, even close to the way that we know them if they are to be brought back in G5. I think there'll be new ponies that happen to share the same name if we see them at all, just based on, trends of Hasbro's past business model.
Okay. Is there an episode that you didn't really like? We'll start with Cups and we'll just move to Fee, then PRB, then Seth. But we're going to exclude a few. We're going to exclude Games Ponies Play, this episode, and Mare Duel. So let's exclude those three because I feel that those are kind of easy picks. Starting with you, Cups, is there an episode that you didn't really like that you feel that like a bunch of other people liked?
Wonderbolt's Academy.
Like one sentence why.
Uh, a long-winded explanation of why I feel Rainbow Dash didn't really act very Rainbow Dash / Lightning Dust took the position Rainbow Dash should have been in / probably get the picture. If not, don't ask.
That makes sense. Fee?
He took mine.
Oh,
Do you have another one off the top of your head?
Thinking about this.
We'll go to PRB then.
Okay.
Okay. I guess going way back here, I do remember one episode in season 1 that was considered a popular one that I was never terribly interested in Applebuck season. Like, everybody likes that episode, right? And I just never really... I didn't feel like it was... It's been so long since I've seen it that I honestly can't give too much to say about it at this point. But, I don't know, it failed to hook me on Applejack that early in the series. There was some points of nice humor, but it wasn't... the plot didn't really catch me as something that interesting. And really, I didn't find anything in the first few episodes of season 1 super enticing. It's more once I got to about the middle of that season and we got some of the popular season 1 episodes like Winter Wrap Up and Sonic Rain Boom that I started to really get into the show. So, I don't know, maybe it just needs a rewatch since I haven't really looked at it since I was first looking at MLP stuff, but Applebuck season never was too big of a deal for me.
What you think, Seth?
Can we only choose episodes that were popular? Because
You could
I think,
choose an episode that wasn't any of the three I said.
okay, well, I mean, the Spike episodes, most of them, or all of them even. I think the problem with Spike episodes is they try and pile all this onto a character that works a lot better on the side, fixing Twilight. When he has issues, it just doesn't fit as well, in my opinion. Especially with Princess Spike, it was just so much illogical out of a character I usually see as logical, in a way. That's about that.
What do you think, Fee? Or what's your
Okay, I
episode?
got one now. I've got a really good one. You all ready for this? Are you sitting down? Luna Eclipsed.
I knew it.
Okay, you got a minute to explain that because I'm interested. Go for it.
Okay, so going down the line, Luna, not a particularly interesting character there, I said it. New interpretation, kind of fun, kind of quirky, a lot of time wasted. Pinky is a complete jerk in that episode, and it makes me so mad. Oh my god. And then huge amounts of time were wasted that shot the pacing to hell on giving lines to Pip, who was very obviously literally only there because somebody somewhere in an office said, we need an adorable tiny little boy pony so they can no, kill him. I hate him. I hate everything about that episode because it could have been good. There could have been interesting things, but they took a bunch of bland paper mache crap and then slapped it all together and then it just, no. Bad episode, no.
And then threw everyone's favorite character into it so that everyone thought it was the best episode.
Yes, of course.
And then they forgot all the fun, cool things they had that character do for the rest of the entire show and made her not like that at all.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing is like I feel Luna Eclipse would have been a good episode if they built off of it, but she kind of like is quirky, and then all of the rest of the episodes she goes back into being Celestia, like a
Yeah,
lesser
she's
version of
really boring.
Celestia.
Also, the tiny little pony they shoved in our faces disappeared off the face of the freaking planet until 3 weeks ago.
Vote for Pip.
Well, he was in Twilight Time too.
Was
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he disassembled. He had a scooter that got disassembled or something.
he? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one who outed the Cutie Mark Crusaders as being attention-seeking glory hogs.
What's your episode, Q?
This is probably going to come as a huge shock to everyone, but make new friends, but keep Discord.
Oh, okay. You got just like Fee. You got a minute since like everyone loves that episode.
To me, the main reason why I don't like that episode can be pretty much boiled down in one sentence. The whole concept of the show, all the humor in that episode is based around the idea of it being absolutely cringeworthy. Everything that's going on, that Discord's going through, and this really is an episode that stars Discord, not
Yeah.
Twilight guest starring Discord. This is Discord's episode.
Yeah, that
It's
is
like-
a Discord episode.
Every single thing that he does here, it's just designed to make you cringe. I cannot stand cringe humor at all. The first time I watched this episode here, I basically had to get up and walk away several times. It was like, oh dear God, this is just no, I do. Ugh.
I think there's a lot of Schadenfreude within cringe humor because always when I hear an episode being called cringe humor, like half people love it and half the people hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think
Yeah.
the definition of cringe humor is not completely, very definite.
Well,
It's
the
a personal thing, I
well,
think.
humor
What is
itself,
cringy?
Yeah.
is subjective. So when you go into cringe humor, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
well, this cringe works for this dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
So-
completely understand if it doesn't work for Q. But
For make new friends and keep Discord. I mean, I thought that episode was genuinely hilarious, and I wasn't cringing at all.
mhm.
So
my
I've heard people lobby the same complaint about Brotherhood Social being nothing but cringe, and I thought that was pretty entertaining too.
yeah. My episode to end it off would be Some Pony to Watch Over Me. I think I've talked with you guys about this before, but I really hate that episode because it infantilized both Applejack and Apple Bloom in order to drive a narrative story. Applejack became a helicopter parent even though she didn't need to be, and Apple Bloom basically became stupider and had the idiot ball the entire episode because the story said so. And that really upset me because Applejack goes on Cutie Mark crusading adventures all the time and essentially has been in way worse problems than the ones that she has in Some Pony to Watch Over Me, but just because the story says so, that becomes 20 minutes. And I mean, the monster at Act 3 was fun, but it just really wasn't good enough for me. They had a chance to have a really good sibling family episode, and I feel that they just completely whiffed the ball. This question is for Cups. What do you think is the most underrated episode in the show?
Well, put me on the spot, and I'm going to jump onto A Bird in the Hoof. It's got a lot of fun interaction with Twilight going borderline crazy, Fluttershy at her most assertive early on, if you don't count like Dragon Shy's at the very end, and it cemented Celestia as a troll, air quotes troll, as a fun troll, as a little prankster god, right in the middle of season 1. It's good fun.
Fee, what you think?
Mystery on the Friendship Express. I feel like that does not get a lot of due, but it is like the quintessential Pinkie Pie episode to me. Well, it just it filters her personality so well through the concept of having a murder mystery to solve, and her little dramatizations and faux Sherlockisms all just make me giggle. I don't know, it's a good episode, but nobody likes it.
I like it. Pegasus, Rescue Brigade?
I guess this isn't one that's disliked or anything, but I never really hear of it being among the high up ones, but I really like Philly Vanilli from season 4.
Hmm.
I just think Fluttershy is, well, first of all, really fun in that episode. The bringing back of that concept from season 1, and using it in a creative way, and then she ends up, taking a big step in that episode toward overcoming one of her many fears. I don't know. I like her development. I think it's entertaining to watch. Just a feel-good episode for me.
Seth?
I'm gonna go with Look Before You Sleep. It was the one episode in season 1 that everyone kind of didn't like back in the day, and it cemented Twilight Sparkle as that nerdy, hilarious, geeky pony that I love, that I kind of miss. Now that she's a princess, she doesn't do that nearly as much, and it was just something that really stood out to me in season 1.
Q?
And I'm going to be completely different from everyone else here and actually pull a story from the comics.
Go for it.
Which the story to me that I actually really, really liked and yet seems to be universally hated by everyone else. And if you pay attention at all, you probably know exactly which story I'm about to mention. Mentioned would be the Reflections story arc by Katie Cook and Andy Price. I love that arc just because of how grand in scope it was. It was the most ambitious story that the comics here had ever done at that point. At that point, it tried doing a whole lot of new stuff that we hadn't seen before, and pretty much since then. And all the art in it here was unbelievably good to look at. Will I say that the ending kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense? Yes, that's a fair assessment to make, but that's really all there is to it. It's like, it was an ambitious tale, and I can't fault the writer, can't fault Katie Cook for writing, and Eddie Price for drawing, and Heather Brickell for coloring something that was that grand in scope.
All right, and then finally, if I had to pick an episode, I would have to go actually with Magical Mystery Cure. I loved every song that was in it. I loved the entire episode, and while I do agree it maybe needed like an extra 10 minutes or something, I just didn't feel that would have worked with like the story they were doing. But yeah, just Magical Mystery Cure hit the feels within me so much, and I just loved every single episode, and just the fact that it's a Beatles reference, I mean, immediately puts it at the top 10 for me.
Like if you cry every time.
Yeah, the Beatles, man, they're a part of me, so I ignore everything and just go, this episode's awesome.
And they introduced musicals to the show.
Yeah, like it introduced the type of musical episode that followed with Pinky Pride and stuff like that. So, it may have like stumbled a little bit because it was the first, but it was really neat and really emotional. And the Liquid Pride was a many.
And it's still a fun episode.
Yeah, it's still fun and it's still definitely watchable, like over and over. I love all those songs.
Vic, have you seen The Inner Light on TNG?
I have not.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
should.
One of the best episodes of any speculative fiction show ever made.
I agree with that 100%.
Well, remind me later and I'll make sure to give it a watch sometime. Well, it looks like we're all out of time for this week's podcast. I thank everyone for tuning in. Once again, our podcasters were Cups.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Fee.
Pony Pleasure Assassination Unit signing off.
Pegasus Rescue Brigade.
Yep, it was fun. See everyone next time.
Sathisto.
Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.
And Illustrious Q.
Remember, folks, you're about to move into parts of the world that contain wonders more incredible than you can possibly imagine, and terrors to freeze your soul. Good night, everyone.
That was very Cthulhu-ish.
That was something.
And I'm a bag of Vicodin, signing off for all of us. Goodbye, everyone.